Happy New Year, everyone! I thought I'd sit down and have a bit of a chat and an update about the sewing and knitting things that I'm currently working on right now or hoping to work on soon in the new year. But first I have to say, it's hard to believe that I have had my YouTube channel for almost a year now. My first video was in mid-January last year when I did a tour of my sewing room, and the first sewing video that I did was when I sewed this dress that I'm wearing today. Which means that this time last year, I was getting studio lighting for Christmas gifts, picking my stepdad's brain about audio since he's a sound engineer, and learning how to light my sewing space, as well as learning how to film and edit video. It's been an adventure to say the least. So as this new year and the second year of my YouTube channel kicks off, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me do here on the channel. I do have a few sewing tutorials that I'm going to be working on in the next couple of months that I'm particularly excited about. They may take a bit of time to pull together, so I don't really want to tell you too much about it yet, but pattern matching is in there in a couple of variations, hopefully, including full-on plaid. But that's all I'll say about that right now. So let's talk about what crafty things I have going on. Notice something new? I just released a new little knitting pattern called the Confectioner Scarf. It's this cute little scarflet that I'm wearing right now, and I absolutely love it. This pattern was initially a freebie for my newsletter subscribers and my test knitters as a thank you, but it's now available to purchase. I'll link it in the description. Plus there's a discount code for the month of January. So yeah, I do have a mailing list and I send out periodic emails about things like new knitting patterns or new YouTube videos or tutorials and things like that. Subscriber only discounts, and this year obviously a free new knitting pattern. So if you'd like, you can join my mailing list too. I'll link it in the description. So back to the Confectioner Scarf. It is a really beginner-friendly little project. And the pattern even comes with an accompanying video in case you'd like to learn how to read your rows in the pattern without having to actually refer to the pattern all the time. So it makes it a super portable on-the-go knitting project. Now I love stripes and I've knit two very candy-colored versions, but you could totally knit this in a solid color or a gradient. I'm definitely planning on knitting at least one solid color at some point. But I love the idea of designing it for stripes because it's a great use of leftover yarn from other projects or those mini skeins that you love but you're not necessarily sure what to do with, because it only needs 80 yards of one color and 60 of the other color. It's perfect for what a lot of vintage knitting patterns called oddments of yarn from other projects. You could even coordinate it with a sweater, which I technically did with this one because it matches one of my wonderellas. I don't know about you, but I often find my chest a little cold in winter, so I thought this would be fun to have like almost kind of like a little cravat if you turn it towards the front, or a little jaunty scarf around your neck if you turn it this way. So I'm very pleased with how the Confectioner Scarf pattern turned out, and I hope you'll like it too. But it's like annoying to wear filming, so I'm going to take it off now. So in terms of knitting garments and knitwear design, I have a few things cooking on the needles. Since this fall, I've been working on this project purely for me, not turning it into a design, but just something that's pure enjoyment for myself. So I'm using stash yarn for this. The blue is some Cascade 220 Sport that I've had in my stash forever, and the natural color is a Romney blend that I got at Rhinebeck a few years ago from Hudson Valley Fibers in upstate New York. And I just worked up a little houndstooth colorwork chart for myself, and I'm knitting a somewhat boxy pullover with this. I have a little while yet to decide what I'm going to do for the upper body. I think I'm probably going to do drop sleeves. So I'll knit the sleeves out from the armholes, in which case I might need to actually reverse my chart since I'm knitting the body bottom up, but then the sleeves will be knit top down. My chart might actually be reversible, but I'll need to figure that out at some point. Now, here's the thing about this blue yarn. This, like I said, is Cascade 220 Sport. And unlike Cascade 220 Worsted, the skeins are not 220 yards, they are actually 164 yards. This obviously is a very big difference in yardage. And I stupidly did not notice this when I started in on this project. I just dove right in thinking, I have plenty of yarn for this. No, I didn't. So if I run out, I'm screwed because this is a discontinued color. And even though it's kind of unlike me, I had a lot going on at the time when I started this, and so I didn't actually track how much yarn I had used so far so that I could kind of work out if I was going to have enough yarn for this project. But I just looked at my order history for this in anticipation of filming this video, and I apparently ordered 7 skeins of this yarn. Now, when I started this project this fall, I am almost positive that I had 5 skeins. I definitely didn't have 7. And that means that somewhere there's 2 more skeins of this, I think, because I don't remember using this for anything else, but there was only 5 skeins in the bag. And hang on, I'll be right back. Do you know what is in this bag? This is the other 2 skeins of yarn. So I have this long ago abandoned bolero, and I have probably pet hair from pets in this. And I don't have a ball band in here, so I can't guarantee it's the same yarn, but it absolutely must be the same yarn. Plus, I very helpfully wrote myself out kind of like a little pattern at the time when I was doing this. And I did say that I was using Cascade 220 Sport, and I have never purchased any other Cascade 220 Sport. So that means I definitely have enough to finish this project. Yes! That feels very triumphant. But I did put this project down for several weeks because I wanted to work on a couple of designs for a while. One of the things that I put it down to work on was obviously my Confectioner Scarf pattern, and the other is a sweater pattern that I'm currently designing, which is this, which I don't want to show you too much of because I'm working on it right now. But last summer, I actually told you in one of my vlog videos that I was working on a design that I was really stuck on, and I thought I had it back on track in that video, but I did not. So honestly, that whole fiasco kind of killed my knitting mojo for a good part of last year. I kept trying and trying to make this design idea work, probably long past the point where I should have just shelved the idea. But I have yarn support from Knit Picks on this, and I've been trying to figure out what to do with this yarn instead of the design that I was sort of trying to shoehorn into being, which wasn't working out, although that was no fault of the yarn, just the design idea. But I finally let that idea go completely last year. Bye forever. So I'm on to a totally different idea with this design for this yarn. And this is actually one of the first ideas that I had when I started designing sweater patterns for people. I really hope that this is going to work out because I am in love with this idea. It's actually a warmer weather knit, but I'm trying to learn to design things well in advance of the season. So speaking of, stay tuned several months from now because I finished knitting a wintry pullover in December with a very cute little snowflake lace on the yoke, and I plan to turn that into a design for next winter or fall. I knit this in Harrisville Shetland, which is one of my favorite yarns, and this is like a beautiful kind of tweedy green with a little bit of like yellow flecking in it. I absolutely love this. This is actually using yarn that I got from my mom as a Christmas or birthday gift a few years ago. So stay tuned, but like many months from now, stay tuned, and hopefully you'll be seeing this next fall. And I'm also working on a couple more design ideas. One is something that I actually knit a year ago. It's a cardigan that I love, but when I was working on the design I think last fall or winter, there were just a few things about it that I wasn't quite happy with in terms of how I was going to have to explain knitting something to other people. So I just put the idea away for a while to come back to at a later date, which I've been doing recently to see if I can kind of get it back onto track and change it a little bit into something else and then do that as a design. So I'm working on that. And I do have one more thing that I am working on, but I'm not going to tell you really anything about this because I just hatched this idea. So it is not fully baked in my head yet, and I'm not sure I can pull it off in time for the season for it to be appropriate. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I definitely have some knitwear design plans this year that I'm excited about, so we will see where that all leads. So what about sewing? In fall, in my sewing vlog a few months ago, I talked about how I really needed separates, which I have done precisely nothing about since that last video. Which of course means I still need separates. Although frankly, I need separates for every season, but it's January and we're still talking about cold weather separates right now, so that's what I need to think about right now. I still really want to sew up the stretch corduroy fabric that I got from Minerva Crafts. I'll link it in the description. I bought a bunch of it for cigarette pants. And the fabrics have been sitting in exactly the same spot I put them in after filming that video. But I'm still definitely leaning towards the idea of batch sewing them, so sewing several pairs at the same time. I've never actually done that before, and quite frankly, it sounds kind of like a dreadful idea to actually execute, but I feel like if I dedicated a week or so to sewing several pairs of corduroy pants, then I would actually have said corduroy pants in my closet instead of in a pile, still being fabric, on one of my tables. So I'm thinking of using a neutral kind of thread color to sew all the main seams with. I read that as a suggestion somewhere for batch sewing multiple items at a time. And then I would just have to bust out matching thread for areas like top stitching the lap zipper and the waistband and the hems. I think this batch idea can sort of work. I've been planning this on and off in my head for a couple of months now. But these pants would basically be great for any season except for summer, so depending on how my other sewing plans go, this idea might slip into spring. I mean, we're talking about it in January, and I was talking about it in what, September or October? So yeah, we'll see how long this takes me to actually turn that pile of fabric into some pants. In general, I just find sewing in winter kind of a difficult activity. It's hard for me to get very excited about winter-specific sewing. There are plenty of wintry fabrics to sew with, but they just aren't things that I would really like to wear in my day-to-day life, and that's primarily what I sew for. And all the fun wintry things tend to be dressier, which is great, but also I don't tend to get as dressed up as much in winter after the holidays. Or the fabrics or colors or prints that I don't like, whatever. There's lots of excuses. It's just really hard for me to get very excited about it. I wear a lot of pants and sweaters in winter, and obviously as a knitter, this is my season for knitwear to shine. Which is great, but sometimes it kind of leaves me lacking for inspiration in the rest of my outfit. So I do think having some new corduroy pants will be a nice addition for my winter wardrobe, but right now it doesn't really leave me with a lot of other things that I really want to sew specifically for winter. I mean, other than all the things that I wanted to sew in fall that I haven't gotten to yet, which includes tops to wear with pants. But at some point, I would really like to sew some kind of stretch cotton velour dress, and I think it would be really fun for it to be a jumper dress. It'd be a really fun winter staple, something that I would wear, you know, like a long sleeve shirt or sweater underneath it. I think velour reads more casual than velvet, so I definitely think that that would work nice as a casual wardrobe item, or relatively casual. I've sewed a few jumper dresses over the last year or so, so I've been really into them. If I do a stretch velour dress though, I'm gonna have to think through converting a pattern for woven fabrics, for a stretch knit fabrics, for areas like the armholes and the neckline. I haven't sewed a dress in knit fabrics for several years, but I have done it in the past. So I could probably refer to the couple of patterns that I used at that time and sort of merge that together with a vintage dress pattern. I don't know if I could just turn in the edges of a steep armhole in for hems, so I could maybe use a stretch woven fabric for an all-in-one facing. I'm not really sure yet, but I need to do a little bit of research first. I do love velour, and I also have wanted to sew myself a pair of velour high-waisted leggings for at least a year now, kind of like lounge pants for around the house. So maybe I'll get to that in the next few months too. But I probably wear them year-round, quite frankly, so I don't necessarily have a time limit on that idea. And unrelated to any of that, I did just come across some leopard print flannel fabric, so I am suddenly very excited about the idea of making something with that. I just ordered another 1950s pattern for a jumper dress, Simplicity 3968, and I think it would be perfect for leopard print fabric. I haven't gotten it in the mail yet, but I think that that pattern has deeper armholes, so I could maybe even wear it with this merino wool turtleneck that I sewed several years ago that has bat wing sleeves. It's kind of a medium blue, so it might not work with the leopard print, but if the style works, then I could definitely make myself a black one. And listen, while I definitely have other sewing ideas, I should frankly just stop right here. Because I noticed that in the last 2 vlog videos that I did last year, where I told you about all the things that I would like to make, I then proceeded to do basically none of those things. And then I was still thinking about those items the next season. Case in point, corduroy pants. I will say it's a bit difficult adjusting to a new routine of balancing filming things for YouTube and sewing things and knitting things and designing knitwear. And I work full time, so all of this stuff is just in my spare time. So I have lots of plans and ideas and balls in motion, but we'll see where it all goes as the year progresses. And admittedly, sometimes it's more fun planning things than it is actually executing them. Regardless, there will definitely be new videos from me in your future this year. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Maybe I could stop scratching my nose. Just kind of kill my sewing. Oh, that is not sewing, that is knitting. Waiting for the heat to stop. 2 top tutorials this year. Last year. Thank you for a wonderful first year on YouTube. I'm so happy to be here and have you along for the ride. And check out one of these 2 videos. They were my 2 top tutorials last year. So I'll see you again soon for more vintage sewing and knitting.